This week in cruising, it has it all. A dockside brawl straight out of reality TV, a shattering waterslide on the world's largest cruise ship, a Motown legend backing out of a big christening, and some very strategic moves from Carnival, MSC, and Royal Caribbean that could change the way you plan your next cruise with them. Hi, I'm Melissa, a university professor who loves to cruise and who loves to talk ships, so let's get into it. The first story of this week is another brawl. Yes, another brawl. This one takes place in the Long Beach Cruise Terminal, where things, shall we say, got a little out of hand. And of course, it was on a Carnival ship. But to be fair, last week's brawl was at Coco Cay, which is a Royal Caribbean property. But this week we're back to Carnival. And it happened on Carnival's Forenza as it was docked. 13 guests at the terminal started throwing punches, pulling hair, and ripping clothes in full view of everyone, families and crew. The scene looked like a viral fight video because it became one. Footage quickly spread across X and TikTok, and for a moment, it seemed like Carnival's brand was all about chaos, but what else is new? In fact, this was very reminiscent of a terminal brawl that happened outside of Carnival Jubilee in Galveston a few months ago. And as usual, Carnival has not commented. Now, in this case, no injuries were reported, and it's unclear if any arrests were made, unlike the Galveston brawl, where that was very well publicized that a lot of folks were arrested. So I want to know, do you think Carnival has a reputation for brawls and bad behavior? Does it make you want to avoid Carnival cruises? Let me know in the comments. I love Carnival. They've been ticking me off lately, and I know fights can happen on any cruise line, but it does seem to be a Carnival problem. Up next, Royal Caribbean. They're having another bad time. It's not been a great summer for Royal Caribbean either. But there is some good royal news, so stay tuned for that. Royal Caribbean's frightening bolt slide, which is a crown jewel on the largest cruise ship in the world, which is Icon of the Seas, it lived up to its name when a clear acrylic panel cracked mid-slide. A guest was injured, and from what I read on Reddit, now of course this is unsubstantiated rumor, but this poor guy, his feet were like all torn up, and apparently it was pretty gnarly, and he has pretty life-altering injuries. Now again, this is all internet speculation, allegedly, who knows what's true, and of course Royal Caribbean has been a little tight-lipped about this, understandably so, because I'm certain lawsuits are probably coming down the pipeline. But regardless, this guest was injured and needed medical attention on board. And of course, Royal Caribbean shut down the slide. Now, videos of the broken slide, they're everywhere. And you can imagine the comments because it looks pretty scary. Now, thankfully, nobody actually fell through the hole in the slide because that would have been even worse, if not resulting in death, because apparently the fracture of the hole happened after the man already had passed through it, but he got cut up in the process. And I actually recently did an interview with the Wall Street Journal because they're looking into the case of cruise ship safety, so stay tuned for that. But I want to know, what's your take on thrill rides on cruise ships? I personally am not afraid of them. I just recently did MSC World America, where I did their cliffhanger ride, which takes you out over the ocean. Not scary at all, in my opinion. I also did their version of the long twisty slide, which goes down 11 decks. And I also found that not scary at all, but thankfully it didn't break mid-ride. But I want to know what you think about cruise ship thrill rides. Now, on another more tragic note, there was a man overboard on Norwegian Star. Passengers awoke to a secret code Oscar announcement early on August 12th. And if you've ever taken a cruise, you may have heard these codes before. And cruise lines are pretty secretive about what their codes mean, and that's by design because they don't want to alarm guests. But anytime you hear any sort of code late in the wee hours of the night or the morning, it's usually not a good thing. Now, in this case, it was later confirmed that a 79-year-old man had gone overboard while the ship was sailing to Greenland. Satellite tracking shows the ship turned around to search, lifeboats were lowered, but the search did not end well. Norwegian Cruise Line issued a statement expressing condolences and saying that appropriate authorities were contacted. Now, the water where this man fell was really cold. It's about 56 degrees Fahrenheit, which is cold enough to cause shock. So I think any kind of man overboard situation in this case is not going to end well. But I'm curious, have you ever experienced a code on a cruise ship? I have, unfortunately, a few times, and a couple of them did result in a passenger death. In one case, a man passed away overnight and they had called emergency crews to his room. So when you're on a cruise, hopefully you never hear these secretive codes and hopefully you never hear them in the middle of the night. Now, on a little more positive news, Carnival just announced reservations are open for its newest ship, Carnival Festivale, launching in 2027. This Excel class vessel takes its name from a beloved Carnival classic, and it promises to be a non-stop celebration, hence the name Festivale. Like the other Excel class ships, although there's some changes coming with this, so stay tuned, Festivale will sail these longer itineraries, in this case 6 to 8 day cruises out of Port Canaveral, and it's going to start with a 15-day transatlantic repositioning voyage from Southampton. Now, what's exciting about this is the ship is supposed to be built around music. There's Studio 724, which is an interactive zone where guests become part of the music making process. There's a festival zone with a colorful promenade and outdoor music festivals, coffee and cocktail bars that shift from day to night, and Sensation Point, a 3-deck complex anchored by Waterworks Ultra, the most family-friendly water park at sea with 6 slides. Now, if I sound like a Carnival press release, don't be surprised because this is coming straight from the Carnival press release. So what exactly this centered by music thing means, I don't know, but it sounds really cool. I like that Carnival is leaning into seemingly more immersive experiences. But if you want to be among the first to experience Festivale, bookings are now open. They just opened a few days ago. And there's even more Carnival news. Speaking of those Excel class ships and those long sailings, a long frustrating issue with a lot of cruisers is that a lot of cruise lines with their newer, fancier, bigger ships, they commit those to those longer sailings. So folks that can't get a lot of time off work, or they have small children or other obligations, they have a hard time sailing on the nice ships, and they're kind of stuck with the older, smaller ones. Royal Caribbean kind of annoyed some people by putting its Utopia of the Seas on shorter sailings, and now Carnival is following suit. The line will debut new 4- and 5-day Bahamas itineraries aboard Carnival Mardi Gras starting May 22nd, 2027, which happens to coincide right alongside Festivale's launch. Now, this is the first time that Mardi Gras will offer shorter sailings, and it's a big win for those travelers who want to experience Excel class ships. And let me tell you, there is a vast difference between old small Carnival ships like Paradise and Horizon and the Excel class like Jubilee, Mardi Gras, and Celebration. So this is a great option for cruisers that want bigger, nicer, newer, better, but don't have the time to commit to the longer sailings. While Carnival is expanding, MSC Cruise Lines is making a major play in the US market. The line announced it will base 4 ships in Miami during the 2026-27 winter season, which is its largest North American deployment ever. MSC Meraviglia will offer 6- and 8-night voyages. MSC Poesia will run Panama Canal transits. MSC World America, which is actually now probably my favorite cruise ship. I just recently sailed it. It's wonderful. But World America is now going to alternate East and West Caribbean itineraries from Miami, and MSC Seaside, also an amazing ship that I love, will handle short Bahamas getaways. MSC North American President Lynn Torrance said the move reflects their commitment to US travelers and gives more ways to enjoy the line's historically European style, but with American comfort. MSC has been coming for the US market, and I am here for it. This is great news for families looking for more options, for loyal Carnival cruisers that are ticked off at their formerly favorite cruise line. And in case you didn't know, MSC is one of the few cruise lines, along with Virgin Voyages, that status matches. So if you have status on another cruise line, take it to MSC, take it to Virgin Voyages, and get it matched. Also, MSC is known for Ocean Key, which is its amazing private island. It's one of my favorite. I was just there a couple of weeks ago. Always top tier. So I'm curious to see how MSC is going to compete with Carnival and Royal, specifically out of Florida. And speaking of Royal Caribbean, the company is also busy unveiling new experiences. Star of the Seas, the second Icon class ship, made her preview visit to Port Canaveral. At over 248,000 gross tons, this thing is a beast. With space for more than 7,000 guests, she's slightly larger than even her sister Icon of the Seas. Star of the Seas introduces refreshed dining in the Aquadome. There's a Thai restaurant, a Cuban restaurant, all kinds of cool stuff. There's even a Golden Retriever crew member named Sailor that's joining the team. Royal Caribbean also is going to be unveiling Perfect Day at Mexico, taking over Costa Maya basically. This is a new private destination set to open in 2027. And they have a new Royal Beach Club, although this one sounds like a little bit of a money grab if you ask me, opening in Nassau in December. But one little twist that kind of caught people by surprise when it comes to this new ship, Motown legend Diana Ross will no longer serve as Star of the Seas godmother. She was announced in June, but pulled out recently due to unforeseen circumstances. A representative for the 81-year-old singer said that she'll be unable to appear, and Royal Caribbean is scrambling to find and announce a new godmother. Now, the godmother tradition is supposed to bestow good luck on a ship, so it's really interesting to see such a high-profile change so close to the christening. Ross is starting a new US tour on August 16th, which might explain the conflict, but with or without a superstar, the line is promising a show-stopping naming ceremony, and I'll be watching to see who steps in. And I want to know, what do you think about all these mega ships? Are they for you, or do you prefer smaller? Let me know in the comments.